Hey, what's going on, everybody? Bringing back Chris Anderson from EerSports in the 24/7 Sports Network. Covers West Virginia. So let's talk about new Miami wide receiver Cam Vaughn. Chris, we'll get into his season. He's only 1 year there, 2 years at Jacksonville State. But just in general, how would you kind of sum up the type of wide receiver that Cam is?
High ceiling, low floor kind of guy here. I think that was the warning that I gave West Virginia fans. Not warning, but more of a tempering of expectations. Because when he committed, it was this is the greatest commit West Virginia's get. He's going to be the best wide receiver. Pretty inconsistent, but then you just see these flashes of greatness, just pure athleticism. Again, he is not very far removed from being a quarterback. Like he hasn't played wide receiver very long. He got moved there during his freshman year at Jacksonville State, so he's still relatively new to the position. You saw that at West Virginia this past year. You saw again. You saw greatness even in an offense that was very, 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 very bad passing the ball. Like there's just no other way to put that. And it wasn't his fault. It was a lot of offensive line issues, a quarterback carousel. So he did what he could. But there were also times where some of it was on him. So you're going to get your highs, you're going to get your lows with him. But I think the ceiling upside here, hey, depending on what price you paid, is a pretty good pickup for any school.
Yeah, so going back with Cam, yeah, high school quarterback out of Temple there in Georgia, small school, unranked by 24/7 Sports in that 2023 class. 2 years at Jacksonville State, kind of redshirts that first year. And he has a breakout redshirt freshman year in 24, goes over 800 yards to 48 catches. And then that first year, that only year at West Virginia, leads the team in receiving 35 catches, 541 yards, and the 4 touchdowns. Chris, you touched on, you said a little bit of inconsistencies. You did lead the team. He actually he led the Big 12 in receiving yards amongst the underclassmen, amongst freshmen and sophomores there. You touched on the inconsistencies, but let's focus on, for now, the positives. You said the high upside stuff. What did you kind of see in terms of those flashes? Obviously gets it going there in the opener, really well overmatched opponent, but just what did you see in terms of his high upside stuff that he did this year?
Yeah, he can really exploit just like again pure athleticism with him because there are plays where he's going to win a lot of these one-on-ones. He's going to make catches that you would never think he's going to make. And again, some of what's going to be said about him and what you might see from him might be like, oh man, that's bad attitude. But again, we have to be very clear here. And in defense of Cam Vaughn, West Virginia's quarterback situation was horrendous this past year. Like you could imagine being a wide receiver being like, this is what's thrown to me. I've had 5 different quarterbacks, and this is what's coming my way. And he would make some remarkable plays, like just some very acrobatic plays. He's not afraid to go over the middle. He hit on a lot of deep balls. And again, if West Virginia had better quarterback play, he's probably going to be sitting close to 1,000 yards. He's probably going to have a few more touchdowns because he's going to hit those go routes. There were so many times last year where he would run his go route, be 5 yards past his man, but the ball's just not getting there. And again, that can be frustrating. But you could see that with him. And it's like if you can put him in the right situation, he could do something really, really special.
A little bit different types of wide receivers, but maybe a similar hope in terms of what Miami got out of CJ Daniels this year. Had the big year at Liberty at that level, then goes to LSU, doesn't have the production for different reasons, maybe somewhat similar with Cam, again, different reasons, but just in terms of the production dipping a little bit as he goes to a different team. Chris, one thing I should have mentioned from the beginning with Jacksonville State playing for Rich Rodriguez, then goes obviously to West Virginia as Rich goes there. Maybe if you could explain what Coach Rodriguez, what you've learned from him, what he expects or what he wants from his wide receivers, or the things he's looking for, or maybe essentially what kind of you think Cam can take away from being in that system?
You better be able to block. Like, I mean, that's the boring answer, but that's like Rich Rodriguez's biggest thing about wide receivers. And he just wants athletes. Like that's his biggest thing, even dating back to his first time at West Virginia back in, the early 2000s. He would just be like, we'll figure out you catching the ball. I just need athleticism. I need speed. I need guys that are elite in those kind of categories. I know people throw that word around, elite, 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 but like he wants guys that are the fastest of the fast, the biggest of the best, biggest, preferably a combination of the two. Now, Cam Vaughn's a nice size, 6'2", 185. I think that's a legitimate size. I mean, I've been standing on the field near him. That looks legitimate to me. So I think that's a very nice size for a wide receiver, especially with somebody with his speed, because he has a lot of straight line speed. So I think his ability to kind of be like a big play threat, but also be able to block, that's kind of what he probably learned during his 1 year at West Virginia.
We'll stay with the blocking because that was a huge point of emphasis. Something that offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson said this year with Miami's wide receivers. He said it's the grittiest group he's ever been around. He said that he really attributes a lot of their running game success. It's been all year long. Coaches talked about the blocking by the wide receivers. In saying that, and with what you just said, is there anything that stands out to you about Cam as a blocker? And really, I always think about it's generally a progression for a wide receiver to be a good blocker. But just in general, anything that stands out to you about Cam as a blocker?
No, I mean, really just consistency. I think, because throughout the year as West Virginia, again, they were churning through offensive linemen, churning through quarterbacks, churning through running backs, just trying to find something that would work. He was one of the more consistent pieces as far as, hey, you're going to be on the field, and he is able to block. Like there was not situations where, like, sometimes you have receivers where you're like, hey, you're out there, this is a pretty obvious pass play. He was out there. It could be a run play, it could be a pass play. He was always blocking. Again, there are some things that might not be totally positive about him, but he always gave effort when running the ball. Very consistent. I'm saying that as I'm like going to check. I mean, like, am I saying that? Am I remembering that correctly? And I'm pulling up PFF, which I know is not the end all be all, but I did want to double check to make sure I just wasn't misremembering anything. But again, like an average but consistent run blocker throughout the season. So which again, you hear average and you think that's bad, but average for a wide receiver blocking, I think, is pretty darn good because that's hard to come by.
Yeah, and we'll stick with some of that PFF numbers, and again, yeah, the blocking stuff, and it's something. If it's a high point of emphasis, receivers essentially kind of learn that they've got to do that if that's going to be what gets them on the field. But certainly he played a lot last year, 54 snaps a game. Looking at his numbers a little bit, 35 catches, 21 of them went for first downs, 8 considered contested catches. The contested catch stuff, does that stand out to you in terms of some of the things he was able to do? I know you touched on some things where you're surprised with, but are there moments or are there things in that nature that stand out to you?
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes I feel like that contested catch number is like that's a catch 22. Is that good or bad? Because you're not getting open. But in his instance, I don't think that's the case because there were so many times where he was wide open and the ball just never came his way, or the ball was a bad throw. And again, like I cannot emphasize enough how poor quarterback play was for West Virginia last year, and again how bad the blocking was, which contributed to that. But he was a guy that could. Again, he's big on seam routes. I like again, PFF doesn't make that down, but my eyes watching this team throughout the entire year, he was big on seam routes, was able to get those going. He didn't line, which is weird because he didn't line up like in the slot too overly much. He was mostly outside, but he could kind of shift in, go up, and was up there and just kind of breaking through anybody. It was very difficult for any kind of defensive back to stick with him, especially when he's running straight line routes.
Yeah, I'm just, again, sticking with the PFF stuff, just kind of adding to what you're saying. Yeah, 87% of the time he was lined out wide, 13% in the slot, and just kind of watching a little bit of his highlights. You do see him kind of make plays the other on some crossing routes. But yeah, that seam stuff stood out to me. I was going to ask you about that. I'm curious about his mentality, maybe what you've learned about him in that sense. And this is a guy that led the team in receiving at Jacksonville State in 24, led the team. I know you said that there was some issues with the passing game, but he led the team. This guy's been a number one. I'm just curious about his mentality and things of that nature that you could share.
Yeah, I think this is why I think it might be a better fit at Miami than it was at West Virginia, assuming things are set kind of at quarterback, is because he needs the ball. Like, he just needs the ball a lot. Like, I mean, it's just, you're going to go into your typical wide receiver diva, give me the darn ball, Keyshawn Johnson style stuff. Like, that's kind of what you might be thinking of with him, because there were issues throughout the year where if he didn't get the ball for a while, then all of a sudden the routes would stop being run. the effort would stop you there. I mean, he's still blocked because otherwise he'd get benched. Like if he didn't block, he'd get benched. And he didn't get benched. But there was a game, and I could send you the link. I tweeted the video of it. It was the final game of the season. He beats his man by about 5 yards on a go route. Like, I mean, blazes past him. Easy touchdown if the quarterback makes even a halfway decent throw. Terrible throw. Comes up about 15 yards short. Gets intercepted. And Cam Vaughn just keeps jogging. Just jogging in the other direction, going towards the end zone and going out. And like it's stuff like that. It's like, oh, come on, that's where you got to grow up. That's where you can't be doing it. And, a lot of former West Virginia players, including NFL wide receivers, chimed in on that. We're like, oh my God, what are you doing? And it was just a year-long frustration for him. And again, that's where I think I'm not aware of what the market was for him. But I think if I were another team, especially a team that might have an established passing game like Miami does, like that might be a bit like, hey man, I might be able to buy low on this kid, and this kid's going to be awesome if I get him in the right offense and I get him the ball. Because again, he was not getting the ball the way he should have, the way he got open, the amount of time he got open. Like in other offenses, if you got open that much, you're getting the ball 80 times, 100 times, you're getting 1,000 yards, and you just weren't able to do that in West Virginia's offense.
Chris, sticking with some of the things you're just saying there, and then kind of going back to him, just really still being kind of new at this wide receiver thing. What do you think is kind of next step for him in terms of where he can kind of go from here? You'll have 2 years of eligibility remaining moving forward, but just I do want to point out too with the Jacksonville State thing, I just a Miami connection, kind of reconnecting with Miami safety Zachariah Poyser. They both came in together, both played 2 years at Jack State, but just upside, kind of moving forward with Cam, maybe taking some of the things you just mentioned, but also other things that what you can kind of see possibly of him moving forward.
Yeah, I think part of why there's such high upside, again, the athleticism, the speed, it's there. It's just there. The athletic part of it is just there. I think his mind's there too. Again, so all that time of being a quarterback, he understands defenses, he understands defensive backs, he understands secondaries from when he played a quarterback and how he started at quarterback at Jacksonville State. It could just be a time thing. Like, again, a time and a frustration thing at West Virginia with West Virginia's offense. But I think he was a backup or like a part-time player for like half of the season at Jacksonville State and then kind of took over. And so he really only had like one full year at wide receiver down there at Jacksonville State in a Rich Rodriguez offense and then again to West Virginia. So that's basically, he's played wide receiver for 2 years and it's been predominantly run first offense. So I think, like, again, you're just scratching the surface of what this kid could possibly do if you get into a pass. It doesn't even have to be pass heavy, just something that's 50-50. He could be somebody that could really do it. Give him more than 2 years to learn the position and to do it in an offense that is more receiver friendly. Like, again, if somebody sends me a message like a year from now and be like, look, here's Miami in the college football playoff again, and Cam Vaughn has 1,200 yards. I'd be like, that does not shock me at all.
Yeah, you touched on just thinking about the quarterback stuff, and obviously Miami was able to use a former quarterback, a high school quarterback, in Malachi Toney this year. He got 7 throws there, completed 4, and had the 2 passing touchdowns. So maybe they get Cam involved in that way, like they did Malachi this year. He got some NFL blitz style throws, some creativity going on with these guys. But Chris, I appreciate you taking the time. This is great stuff on Cam Vaughn, newest Miami wide receiver. So thank you.
Yeah, no, appreciate you having me on.